Hey guys, this is Tom Box. Welcome to MST.TV. I have a very special guest with you guys today. This is a treat for all of you guys, especially those of you who are trying to learn the game, trying to get better at the game. We have a champion amongst our ranks today. We have Koty Angeloff. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Tom. Thank you for asking.
No, thank you for joining me on this. And this is the ultimate counter guide. I know you haven't seen very much of this since you've told me about this, but you're going to be joining me on this. And this is something that a lot of people do like, because not a lot of people get a chance to practice against every single matchup because they just don't have the time, but they still want to play, say, competitively. They want to do their best at events, and sometimes having these little these cheat sheets, for say, lets them cut some corners and then try to expand from there. Of course, these cheat sheets they're not like the end all of all things. There's a lot of situations to also consider, and yeah. But anyways, Koty, tell me a little bit about yourself for the audience that aren't too familiar with you.
So as Tom said, my name is Koty Angeloff. I am a world's competitor. I am the current reigning national champion. I have 20 tops right now in the game. Half of them are top 4 or better, which is kind of weird, wild, honestly.
That's insane. That's actually a really insane record. And you also, your most recent, I guess, official top, technically, was the remote duel at 2nd place.
Right.
Yeah, that was also very impressive. You had some really impressive plays in there as well. You guys, I do recommend you guys check it out because it'll teach you how to play out of bad hands.
I was drawing pretty bad against them. A lot of people are drawing really bad against them, but the thing is you have to know how to be able to play through these bad hands and pretty much know what your deck is capable of whenever you enter an event with it.
But first of all, remember guys, Koty, you right now have a new YouTube channel that you just started, so this is my recommendation to you guys. Go check it out for sure. Go subscribe to Koty.
Please sub.
I mean, if anything, you deserve it. I mean, we're talking about like a national champion here, so you're gonna get a lot of knowledge. And if you guys don't know already, Koty, of course, does stream on Twitch a lot, and I lurk in there from time to time. And
right.
You can
I've seen him in my chat a couple of times for sure.
So go, go there, follow him. Subscribe to him also if you want to. And well, okay, so today you're going to be doing these ultimate counter guide. We're going to go through hand traps. We're going to go through, for me, we're going to start with going second, because going second is a slightly easier for people to adapt to. And then we're also going to talk about going first. And these are side deck cards that you might consider, or maybe consider in your main deck. It's just because of what we're doing here. And the matchups that we're going to be going through today will be, I guess, the current meta matchups. I think Dinosaur is very popular right now. Dragon Link, probably the most popular deck right now. We have Invoke Dogmatica. I think this one is thanks to Zach Stone winning the most recent LCS. We have Subterror, but for Subterror, I have to say it's Subterror Dragoon, more specifically.
Right.
But the Dragoon variant, they just makes it so that it's much scarier when they can put 2 monsters on board and execute their combo. And of course, there's also Infernoble, because Infernoble is that one deck that's going to be around for quite a bit, I would say. And if they go off, I don't think you're ever going to see a winnable situation, just because there's just too much knowledge exposed already. So these are the 5 matchups that we're going to talk about. How does that sound?
That sounds great to me. All
right, let's get started. Okay, so firstly we have hand traps, and you know what? Let's actually do it a matchup to matchup, just so that we can keep it consistent with each of the matchups that we're going to talk about. So let's start off with, of course, we have Dinosaur, Dragon Link, Invoke Dogmatica, Subterror, and Infernoble, and then down the line of hand traps. These are the most popular, or probably the most effective hand traps currently. I know some of you guys may be surprised that Ashe is not there anymore. Well, the thing is, whenever Drone Lockbird is in there, Ashe usually does kind of get replaced by, I think, every format wherever Drone Lockbird is active. Ashe usually kind of falls to a second choice in comparison. So we have Infinite Impermanence, which also kind of covers Effect Failure if you can't afford them. There's also Psyframe Gamma, which everyone should be able to afford now. Drone Lockbird, The Rock, which is, if you don't know what that is, well, probably you haven't gotten hit by one yet. And Token Collector and Artifact Lancia. Some of these are actually kind of surprising to me how they're kind of making a bit of a comeback, but let's start with dinosaurs. So dinosaurs, what's your take on dinosaurs versus Imperm?
So right now, I think dinosaurs are actually probably the best deck to play against hand traps, just because miscellaneous source is still at 3. Not sure why it's still at 3, but it is still at 3. And with it being at 3, you do have to respect the card, making hand traps pretty much useless, except for the ones that affect the player and not the monsters. I guess not the monsters.
Or the ones that aren't on the field per se.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do think that Imperm is better than most of the other hand traps against dinosaurs, simply because you can draw it as your 6th card and you can hold it if they do miscellaneous source you. Okay. Also, miscellaneous source, it doesn't protect in the battle phase. So if you have Imperm set and you Imperm the ultimate conductor during the battle phase, then you won't be dying that turn, which is very, very good.
Yeah, especially when you can't punch through your defenses, you're not taking that damage. Okay, so that's, in other words, there are some targets that you can still use. Not the most effective, probably not some of the best stuff that actually disrupt them during the main phase, but still good enough to keep you alive. So it's not the worst one out there. But definitely, Valor does not cover that ground, I would say. Does Valor cover that ground? No, Valor.
I don't think so.
No,
because like usually I would hold Imperm for my turn as well.
Okay.
So that I can negate the conductor during like the standby phase, so Mist doesn't hit it. Also, like hitting Dolka is very, very good.
Okay, so there are several targets that we can hit. Would you hit like the needle fiber stuff? Like there's a lot of people do like going to the needle fiber combo to set up negations with heralds.
I'm not exactly sure when I would Imperm against that matchup. Probably the Link Cross though, because they turned the needle fiber into the Link Cross and then start doing stuff. So like if I negate the needle fiber, the Link Cross, then they're not going to be able to go into another needle fiber. Okay. They would probably just go into the like Reproducus and do the barrier statue stuff. Okay.
All right, next up we have Psyframe Gamma. I think this one's a little bit more effective. Actually, before we go there, would you give Imperm a check, a dash, or well, we're not going to give it an X. There is something they can use it. So a check or a dash?
I think it would be a dash, since it is very good in certain scenarios and very bad in other scenarios.
Okay, it's a dash. Okay, next up we have Psyframe Gamma. Check, dash, or X?
Check, dash, or X. You see, this is, I think that this will be a check. Okay. Simply because you can gamma the miscellaneous effect in the graveyard. So that they don't get to Animadorn or also the double evolution pill.
That's actually really, really good.
And then also having utility as like a 6 card as well. Not against Dolka, but against something like UCT, depending on like what you do. Also, you can hit Dolka depending on like your line of play as well. Okay. But yeah, I think Imperming the not Imperm, sorry, but gamming the miscellaneous source effect in the graveyard is very, very huge.
Okay, I think that is I definitely agree with that statement, because I've tried to play Dino and cutting myself out of one special summon, like, and just summoning out an Oviraptor doesn't really get you anywhere fast, and it's super reliant on that miscellaneous to really kickstart the deck. So that's a really key point there. Next we have Droll and Lockbird. Why is this card so popular again?
Why is it so popular? So I think that's very good, because right now Dragonlink, Infernoble, and Dino are probably like the top 3 decks of the format right now. And Droll pretty much, I think Droll is that hand trap like Nib as well. Well, actually just the entire format where you need like 2 hand traps to be able to play. And I think Droll really complements other hand traps in the meta right now against decks like Dino and Dragonlink. Yeah,
and I think there's also any of the, seems like there's a police going around, but like I think there's also like with Invoke, Dogmatica, stuff like that going around, where the whole deck is based off of searching, and they are getting popular. Among the meta choices, Dinosaur, Dragonlink, Invoked, Infernoble, all of them have multiple searches, and it can get out of hand if like a single Ash doesn't cut it.
Exactly. Like Droll isn't that great against Infernoble because of Aqua Dolphin right now, but if they don't have Aqua Dolphin, Droll can do something, simply because like they can't use Roll in effect to dump something and then add something during the end phase. They'll use Isolde effect to add. And it will also shut down Heritage and Durandal and Rhoda, depending on their hand. And with Call by pretty much not being played in any deck right now because it did go to 1 and people still think that it's not worth to play at 1. I think Droll is very good in that aspect simply because there's not a lot of ways to negate, except for Gamma.
Okay. How about Nibiru? Check dash for X.
Against Dinosaur, this is like the weird thing because like if they are playing like a Neofiber version, then Nib is going to be good since they're going to be trying to go for like VFD. But against the normal version, Miscellaneous just like destroys rock. So I always side it out usually.
It's kind of like a dash closer to an X.
Yeah, it'd probably be an X for me.
Okay.
Simply because like Nib doesn't really do anything to miss since you can only use Nib during the main phase, where all the other hand traps you can use during like the standby phase and the drop. I mean, not the drop phase, but the battle phase.
A token collector.
Token collector. This is probably the worst matchup to have it in against, simply because Dinosaur actually they can main deck Token Collector because of like Lost World. They don't really do link cross plays, and Token Collector will help them out more than hurt them.
Oh, right. Lost World, they'll just protect it and boom, they get themselves a free dinosaur.
Yeah, exactly. Because like dinos actually do that play. Like they'll activate Lost World and then summon something, and then Token Collector from their hand, since they'll be main decking it, and then pop the token and then pretty much get all their play started from there.
All right, so yeah, that's 100% an X.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, then there's actually Artifact Lancia. I'm gonna take a guess that this one is a bit of a check, simply because dinosaurs, they rely on banishing a lot. The pill, the miscellaneous, a lot of it is reliant on actually being able to banish. Without the pill, well, I guess they can't set up the UCT unless they opened it in their hand. But even if they open it in your hand, they can't summon it either because they still need to banish. So it actually cuts out a lot of the plays if you Lancia them quite early. Miscellaneous is kind of like pointless at that point because it just protects them without giving them anything. Exactly. So yeah, that's my take on it. Is that something that you share, or is there anything I'm missing about this?
I definitely agree with all those points. Another thing is like Lancia hits all the cards that I'm afraid of, which are being miscellaneous and double evolution pills. Those are the only 2 cards that I'm really scared of against the Dino deck, since those are the cards that like pretty much help the end board, making the Dolka, they'll have to banish the Giant Rex for Evo pill. If you Lancia later in the turn, for instance, if they didn't open miss but they go Animadorn, then they could also just not go for Rex and be greedy with their Oviraptor and summon a baby back, trying to pop it again, and then not even end on like Log-Air or Dolka. So I think Lancia is probably the best hand trap against them.
Okay, and with Dinosaur being so popular, I think it is probably one that you might try to fit into your side deck if you haven't done so already. Now next we're going to the next matchup, probably the most popular deck right now, because it's the one deck that I think a lot of people can play, and it's actually really cheap. It's super affordable now thanks to the Megatins, Dragon Links. Dragon Links do have a lot of choke points, I would say, probably the most choke points, but they also have probably the most amount of extenders to push past those choke points and still end with somewhat of a board. And depending on how you manage your hand sizes, and depending on what kind of way that perhaps maybe they don't need to go all the way to actually keep you under control. So we have Dragon Link. So Imperm.
So the one thing about Dragon Link, right, is this deck is very extraordinary because one hand trap, no matter what hand trap it is, they're always going to be able to play through it unless they open like 4 hand traps themselves and a starter. So I think in this category, I think we should pretty much figure out what hand traps pretty much make the other ones and like pair with the other ones good.
So the entire line of Dragon Link, you require 2 hand traps for it to be actually good, or they will extend through it regardless.
Exactly. So, that's why that's why you see a lot of these players, the more well-known players and the players that are doing consistently well in events right now, playing a lot of hand traps in the main deck so that they don't lose going second. And so I think you either play 9 hand traps right now or none, and pretty much just give up the game if you lose the die roll. And right now, I think Imperm will be one of the hand traps that I would main deck in my deck, simply because it does have the utility of drawing it for your 6th card. It can hit pretty much anything in the format right now. It does conflict with Gamma and Nibiru though, simply because like you have to control no monsters on your side of the field, which is a downside. But I think like it being a trap card and not being able to trigger your opponent's talents is very, very good. Okay. Also, they can't get around from chain blocking Imperm since you just target a card on the field.
Okay, no, that's good. I guess for the entire row, I'm gonna put a number 2 in the corner there, just because it requires 2 hand traps to actually be successful. Save us some time to explain this every time. Next side frame, Gamma. And actually, which card would you actually hit? Okay, say if you did have 2 hand traps, which is the one that you would hit with Imperm, which is the one that you would hit with, like, say, a Gamma?
Right, so for me, I would usually hold my hand traps for later. So I would usually Imperm the Link Cross, let them go into Neo Fiber, and then Gamma something later in the turn. Or I would, depending on how they start, I would Imperm the Romulus. Okay. And then make them commit into another extender, and then Gamma something like the Link Cross or the Neo Fiber from there, or even the Marcher. Okay. So I do think that Gamma is the best hand trap in the format right now, simply because it is probably the only hand trap in the game right now that can by itself end a turn, because it does negate an effect and it does get rid of the monster, so they can't use the monster for Link Cross tokens. Okay. So I do think Gamma is very, very good against Dragon right now. Okay.
That sounds fair. I'm going to say I'm going to save you some time on Droll and Lockbird. This, knowing from previous Dragon Link matchups, we should know that Droll and Lockbird is really good against them because they search so much. I'm just gonna put a check on there. Just hit them on the earliest moment you can. That's all I can really say. It can actually turn off the entire turn if you hit them early enough and they somehow burn their search. That means their Romulus won't get the search, and that means their commitment is going to be much, much worse. Brotar is not gonna give you a search. Your hand is much safer. That's all I really have to say. Just hit him as early as you can.
And then also it punishes the people that are playing Byline Cube as well, because instead of not playing the Rose Dragons, Droll will pretty much target the Byline Cube package more and punish you more for pretty much being greedy in deck building and going for the smoke grenade play. Next. Also, something that I do want to point out with Droll though as well is that a lot of people don't like Droll against Dragon Link.
Really?
Right, I've heard so many people say that Droll just isn't good against Dragon Link. Like more like well-known, well-respected players like say that they don't like Droll, and I don't understand it. I think Droll is just crazy against Dragon Link. Yeah, but that's also the fact that I think that they're pretty much expecting to only draw Droll though, and not with another hand trap.
Okay, that makes sense. But to me, you know, like if you're not as competitive per se, I would say that Droll might be one of your better options, especially if the pilot of Dragon Link is not as experienced. Droll would cripple them really badly. They will look at the amount of options they don't have and then feel really bad for themselves. Exactly. And then I agree 100%. And then they would slow play, and then you'd be like, "You gotta hurry up, buddy!" And then they'll pass turn with a bad board. That's the standard cycle of getting hand trapped during mid combo.
Exactly, 1000%. I agree with you there. Very good against the less experienced players.
Yes. Then there's Nibiru. I think Nibiru is one of those hand traps that you, first of all, if you're lucky, you only need one copy of it, and then you'll be forced to interrupt them at a very specific point, but that means your opponent had a hand full of hand traps. If you're not lucky, this card requires a second hand trap to be effective. Do you agree with that statement? Is this a really good one, or is it just...
I think it's the second best one against like the combo decks, simply because it does have the ability to end a turn. Okay. Where all the other hand traps don't, except for Gamma. Okay.
Token Collector.
I think Token Collector is not as good against this deck as it is the other decks, but I do think it is still very good, simply because this deck does require Link Cross tokens to pretty much set up a Herald, Also, if they don't get rid of your token collector and they end on a suboptimal board, then token collector is something that a lot of people don't know, is that your opponent can't nib you if you do have token collector up, simply because they can't summon tokens. Like, they can't attempt to summon tokens.
Ah, yes, that is true. That was actually one of the plays of dinos at one point, where, or not just dinos, but like some people decided in token collectors they would summon it as early, and then use special summons to extend through their combo so that they won't get nibbed along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same concept as back in the day whenever people would summon a kaiju on their side of the field, so that their U-Link won't get broken by another kaiju.
Makes sense. Artifact Lancia.
I think Lancia is actually very good against dragons because there's a lot of cards that they can start with, being like Chaos Space. It shuts off Levy in there. It shuts off all the hard-drawn baby dragons. It shuts off a lot of these cards, and I think it's very good in those situations, since those are probably the best extenders that that they could have.
Okay.
Also, if they do start with Chaos Space, then you will have to drop it early and pretty much put yourself in a position to get Gamma on your Lancia, but they will have the follow-up play for Chaos Space, since they won't be able to use it that turn. But Lancia will usually just end their turn, or they'll just end on like one interruption, one negate that you should be able to play through.
Okay, that sounds fair. Next, we have Invoke Dogmatica. I know Eldritch, some people are still trying to push Eldritch, but I don't think it's as popular as Invoke Dogmatica right now, especially with the recent LCS victory. Imperm, thoughts?
This is a very weird thing, since Imperm, against this deck, I will only hit Ecclesia or save it for my turn to hit Mechaba. Okay. Because they don't usually put up that many interruptions except for like Handtraps and Mechaba. So not even risking hitting the Alistair, because like they could have an invocation, but instead just saving it for the problem like that they will have. Yeah, exactly. Pretty much the only disruption if they don't have any of the Dogmatica engine.
Okay.
So I do think Imperm's like kind of meh.
Kind of meh
against them.
Okay.
Yeah. Where it can be good, but it's not the best hand trap against them.
But you still wouldn't mind seeing it though.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I don't think that it's the hand trap I would want to see the most.
Okay. What about Gamma? Do you feel the same way about Gamma against Dogmatica?
I actually think Gamma's very, very good against them.
Okay.
It's very weird to think that like, oh, Gamma's good, but Imperm isn't. So the thing is with Gamma, if they do have invocation, like I'm never hitting the Alistair with the Gamma. But on your turn, if you do activate spell cards to pretty much prompt the Mechaba on your turn, there was also something else that I was thinking of. Like obviously like Mechaba, they could Floor, but by that time you'll have a monster on your side of the field. Some versions were also going for VFD, which is interesting. So you'll be able to Gamma the VFD. You can Gamma the Ash Dragon if they activate Nadir Servant, where all the other hand traps don't really do anything against that. Okay. You can Gamma and hit. What was their boss monster? Maximus? Yeah, yes, Maximus. If they do decide to play Maximus, then hitting Maximus so that they can't go into window is very, very good.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. But I don't like dealing with a floodgate monster that just cripples my summons. And,
exactly.
Shutting that out allows you to play. It's actually very crucial. Not letting that happen. If you guys
also, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, if you do somehow forget that you're holding a Gamma. I know some people, they're looking at their hand traps. They actually pass turn while holding a hand trap. I've seen it. There are like other minor timings that you might be able to catch to kind of block it, hopefully, especially if they have their app cologne. If you forgot, probably should do something about it. But if they kind of if they chain blocked improperly, that's like your only saving grace. Otherwise, you're gonna be a little bit boned. You're gonna be dealing with something else. It's not. It's definitely not the most ideal. But if you can block the app cologne, then maybe you'll still be able to stop them from getting that schism up. Schism.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anyways, yeah. Continue. What were you?
I would give dash to Gamma though.
Dash to Gamma. Okay.
Yeah, same with Imperm. I get like there are situations where it could come up, but I'd rather see other hand traps, I think.
Okay.
Or just none at all.
Okay. Droll. I think this one is a check for me. There's just so many search options in the entire deck.
Yeah, Droll's definitely the best hand trap against them since they play about 20 cards at search, I believe. Maybe even a little more because the entire Dragma engine searches, also all the invoke cards search, and they play 7 Alistairs.
Yeah, terraforming. Like if they start off with like one of the earlier pieces, it's usually like
Meltdown.
Yeah, even like terraforming to search Meltdown, and you shut that down while everything else is just like completely crippled, and all the engines are shut down at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly. Because like even if they like hard open Maximus as well, like they can't even send out App Cologne or the Dragon Dash Dragon.
Yeah, they just won't get anything out of anything, and it's just like okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that is very, very painful. How about I think the Rock. What do you think about the Rock there?
X 100%. Like they never summon 5 times.
Or Mechabuzz already on the board.
Yeah, exactly. Like they just never summon 5 times, so this card's never going to resolve against them.
Token collectors probably in X. They don't use tokens.
Right. They just don't use Neophyber, so token collector would not be a check.
Okay.
Or even a dash.
Lancea is kind of an interesting one here. Thoughts on Lancea versus like basically this is more for like the invocation stuff.
Right. I would put Lancea in, even though it only hits the Alistair, since they will be going into Almirage into Secure Guard and then using Invocation. Also, if they do have the Alistair in hand, this just helps you more, simply because they have to resolve it then. And then also pretty much revealing free card knowledge when they were going to end on this anyway.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, now we're at about 23 minutes in. Subterra, this is a matchup that I'm not as familiar with because I actually haven't, personally, my local spot doesn't have any Subterra Dragoon players. This is specifically Subterra Dragoon,
right?
Because we can't exclude Dragoon being a card these days. You'll always just lose by surprise if you don't respect the card. So thoughts on like Imperm versus Subterra Dragoon?
Imperm, I don't think is very good, simply because you can Imperm the Guru, which is fine, but if they already have Fiendus or the final battle, then you pretty much just win -1 for no reason.
Okay. Gamma.
I think Gamma is very good against them, actually.
Okay.
Because they have to have the Fiendus, and also Gamma gets the Guru off the board whenever they will go into Hidden City, set the Guru, flip it, get the effect, and then you Gamma it there. Then they just can't do anything. Even though, like, if they do hard draw the Red Eyes Fusion, then it's whatever. Like, it happens. But against the Subterra engine itself, I think Gamma's very good. Also, being able to activate, depending on the deck, activating a spell and then forcing the Fiendus there, and then gamming the Fiendus is huge.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, shutting off the negator is actually pretty big.
Yeah.
Droll.
I wouldn't put Droll in against them, since the only times they're searching is from Extravagance. Extravagance, Hidden City, and Guru. And Hidden City has to be drawn to make Guru search. So there's only 2 cards, and the cards by themselves just do enough already, where Droll pretty much won't have a use.
Okay, that's fair. Nibiru, I'm just gonna put an X on this. I don't think they actually summon enough to actually
I don't even think they can summon 5 times, even if they tried to.
Okay,
honestly, like I just don't even think they're possible, like, to be able to do that.
That makes sense. Token collector, they don't play tokens, and
yeah, they can't summon Neophyber. It's literally impossible for them.
Lancea, they don't banish either.
Yeah, they don't banish at all.
I think we worry more about their back row than anything else. That's what.
Yeah, 100%.
That's for the other part of this list. Don't worry. I know there's a lot of X's on the Subterra list, but there's other things you can side against them. All right, guys. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, and I guess now we are down for Infernoble. But before we continue with the Infernoble, guys, there's one video I would recommend to check out from Koty. You had a video about why you should run 40 cards, and you're giving your take on the 40 card running, I guess, rule.
Yeah,
I actually found it very insightful. Like, I think this is mainly specifically talk about, like, I guess the most applicable thing about that would be why run the Dragon Link at 40 rather than 50 or 60. You especially when you use Dragon Link example in there. And for those of you guys who are part of the team 40 card deck, then you want to play Dragon Link, check out that video.
You can, yeah. Everyone that knows me, like, I'm a very high advocate for 39 to 40 cards in the deck.
Yep. So definitely check it out. If you're not convinced, well, you can still go there and check it out, leave a comment, and give your say about it as well.
Right. Or you could come to Twitch chat and ask. Yeah,
that too. All right. Now let's do the Infernoble. I think this is a really well-known matchup. And if we go into 30 minutes, maybe we'll split this up into a second part where we talk about the go second, go first stuff as well. But this one should be relatively quick. Infernoble is such a well-known matchup. Their biggest choke point is probably the second effect of Isolde. Typically, of course, they do have the extender of Oliver. And when they use Oliver to extend through it, then that becomes a little bit of a different story. People need to know how to navigate through basically missing one of their free searches or one of the free dumps that they would put into the graveyard if they use Armageddon Knight, or they'll play triple living fossil like Shu. So Imperm versus Infernoble. This one is to you
I think it's a check mark.
Yeah.
The main reason is because it doesn't get hit by Dolphin.
That is actually a very key thing.
Yeah, like, not being able to be hit with Dolphin is very, very big. It's a reason why I don't think Asher Ogre, like, even in the top hand traps right now, simply because of the Infernoble being able to summon Connector and those hand traps not doing anything at all. Whereas Imperm, you can hold it as long as possible when you need to. And being able to hit the very choke points of the deck, being Link Cross, Neofiber, Isolde, being able to hit all these choke points without being able to for them to chain block is very good.
Yes. Just keep that in mind, guys. Remember, Infernoble is the deck that even if you run big blowout cards, you're not going to be able to keep them. Because they rip it out of your hand. So hand trap is like one of the most important things to actually know about this matchup. Giving them a free turn is actually not an option because you will die.
Exactly.
Gamma. I think actually a lot of people argue that Gamma is one of the best hand traps against them. Even it's because it can't get hit by a Dolphin by itself.
Right. I do think that Gamma is the best hand trap against them, because if they do have Oliver, then it doesn't matter, because once you get rid of the Isolde with Gamma, then they can't go into Link Cross and then still do their entire combo. They have to have 2 extenders instead of just Oliver.
Okay, that is very good. Droll, what's your argument on Droll for this one?
I don't think Droll's very good.
I feel like it's kind of iffy. I mean, if they start with like a Rhoda, then it's it's really kind of meh.
Yeah, it's only good. So it's only good if they start with Heritage or Rhoda, because like, once again, like, you can't Dolphin them before they Connector or Dolphin unless they do use these cards before. Which, if you're playing against a decent player, then they will just summon the Connector or Dolphin first.
Yeah, I'll give it a dash because it really depends on what they open. If they don't open with a Dolphin, then it does hurt them a little more. But if they start with 2 monsters, it almost becomes a little bit pointless.
Exactly. Because it doesn't even matter at that point.
Because they can just mill the grenades and everything into the graveyard with Isolde's second effect anyway, and that's a summon effect. So even if they activate the effect to add a monster to hand. Okay, they get drolled. They'll just
Right.
play the other combo. Like a competent Infernoble deck player will know how to navigate their combo without the additional remaining searches, and that's something we have to be aware of.
Right. The only. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The only thing that Droll really hits in the standard Infernoble combo anyway is just Power Tool Dragon as well, which they can combo through it without. So not being able to hit like a key part of their combo or any line of their combo is not very good.
Yeah, like funny enough, because this, being the deck that does have the 7 Rhodas, it is strange to say that Droll isn't actually as effective as it may seem.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, next we have the Nibiru. This one's actually pretty good.
So Nib, I actually have a love-hate relationship with with Nib against Infernoble, simply because like sometimes they can play through it, sometimes they can't. Like it's a pretty much like if you imprint the Isold situation, where if you do Nib them, then do they have the Oliver to pretty much go into Neofiber and do their Neofiber play? Or if you do have another hand trap, then being able to pretty much nib them with another hand trap, it's just so impactful. It's the best hand trap to have against them.
So it's two is the 1 is not bad, 2 is ideal.
Right. And like another thing is like sometimes if they aren't able to put up Gearfried early or Neofiber with Herald, then Nib will definitely blow them out for sure. It just depends on how strong their hand is.
Yeah, that's true. And I also got like the Gearfried factor. Just remember that it's harder for them to manipulate their zones these days because, well, there's no O-line anymore, which is
right.
The big thing, that, especially when they don't have O-line, the zone management becomes a lot tougher for a lot of the newer players. But if they do know what they're doing, you have to be careful. Some people may go into an Omega just so they can end on a board to rip an extra card out of your hand. So
right,
just be careful about that. That's their way of saying trading an equivalent card of like, oh, I don't go into Savage, but I still have the 8, the 9, the negate, and basically the hand rip at the same time. Yeah, so you might eat an Omega sometimes. Unfortunately, that's just how it is if they open. You only see that when they open with the Gearfried, though. They would never do it otherwise. Token Collector.
It does come up though.
Yeah, because it is a very strong board. I think that is one of their safest opening if they do it that way.
Right, and it's still very powerful. And they still have access to Smoke Grenade, which I think is the best card in the deck.
Yeah, that Smoke Grenade's just insane.
That card should be banned. 100%. That card should just be banned.
It's confiscation.
Exactly. Like, and it's free, and you can play it in literally any deck right now for the most part.
And if you can somehow proc it twice, it will activate twice.
Yeah, it's not once per turn, which is wild.
Yeah. Oh my god. I can't wait for I don't know. I want to mention the deck name, but I don't want to get flamed for it just yet.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Okay, so let's go into the Token Collector. I think it's actually pretty good against them. They do use Link Cross sometimes, but what do you think?
I think Token Collector is actually like the best hand trap against them. I think it is better than Gamma or Imperm Effect Veiler. The reason why is because this card does dodge Dolphin, guys. Even though it is 0 tech, you can use it from the graveyard, so it does dodge Dolphin. And Infernoble is very, very, very reliant on Auroradon resolving, and Link Cross as well. Token Collector, they don't have a way to out it either, unless they go Gearfried early. That's the only way that they can out it and be able to stick Token Collector. They'll end on maybe 1 negate. Or if their hand's good, they may end on like Smoke Grenade Herald. But I don't see that happening without Auroradon or Link Cross. So I do think Token Collector is the biggest blowout. It's the only hand trap that I think that you can have it like by itself and still win.
Okay. This is the best one. I'll put a star on it. Lancia. This one's kind of a neat one because there are things that they do banish in their deck. Say If they need to banish for like Gear Freed, they can also banish cards for Divine Sword. They can banish the card. There's just a lot of things they can actually banish to use.
Right, and if they're still playing Astolfo, it can still turn it off. I don't like Lancia against them though. I don't know. Like it just doesn't seem enough. It seems like troll to me.
Doesn't seem like there's enough impact on the things that they like. They could probably play around it. If you have to preempt it, they can just go somewhere else.
Exactly, because like DDR isn't like that's the card that I would be putting Lancia in against to like stop his DDR, but they don't even have to use DDR to be able to full combo. My bad. And then also another thing is that they don't have to use Phoenix Blade either. They just don't have to use Phoenix Blade. Like they don't care about the discards at all. It's cool to add it back, but you just don't have to use it. You just don't, since all of their combos are 1 to 2 cards.
This is the entire first page of probably the most popular matchup so far against some of the most popular hand traps that you'll see in the current format. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button, hit the like, hit subscribe, and also do it to Koty's channel. Don't forget, guys, there's gonna be a part 2. We're gonna do a part 2 together.
For sure.
That one's gonna be going up tomorrow. But I believe you have something else that you want everyone to know.
Yeah. Once again, go check out my YouTube. That'd be very appreciative.
I recommend it.
Go to my Twitch. Also, go to my Twitch. I stream Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern every single day. So if you guys like me and my content, definitely come check it out. Also, guys, on the weekend of October 16th, I'm going to be doing a 24-hour stream. So if you guys like to see me be dumb and sometimes funny, definitely come check it out. I definitely appreciate you guys.
I recommend going check it out. Dude, 24-hour stream, that's insane.
Yeah, it's so bad. I'm not looking for it. I'm not looking forward to it at all.
Guys, show your support to Koty. Check it out on October 16th. And well, I'll see you guys in the next video.